Okay. Just making sure because I don't see the little records. There we go. Okay. All right. So like I said in the email that went out, we are going to be going over the survey results today. And from there, we're going to talk about some takeaways that came out of that. And then I'm just going to give you a little bit of a taste of the work that's been going on with the financial portion of the state of the charter school accountability framework. All right. So for our survey, we had 24 people respond to it. 4 of those were directors, 1 was a consultant, and 19 of them were business administrators. Before you go there, we're actually going to look at the survey itself. So let me go ahead and get that on screen. I'm getting better at this Zoom thing, but when I only have one screen, it does get a little bit trickier for me. So bear with me. There we go. Let me just make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Nope, you are not. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. All right. Okay. Yep, I definitely need 2 screens. Bear with me a second. There we go. All right. Okay. So this first question was just what we talked about, who responded to the survey. And what I'm going to kind of do is, like I said, we had directors and BAs that responded to the survey. And I'm going to give you the responses from everybody, but then I'm going to kind of give you some insight into how the BAs themselves responded. Just because I thought there was some insight that could be gained just from their responses. So we'll start there. So these first 3 questions were basically about whether BAs were from, or anyone who responded was familiar with the charter school accountability framework, if they knew where to locate it, and if they understood what the metrics were, basically what they were and what they were measuring. So 83% of everyone that responded did say that they knew that they were familiar with the framework itself. Of those, of the ones that were BAs, only 4 of the responders knew where to find that information. Oh wait, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'm sorry. So 83% said they were aware of it. 67% said that they did not know where to locate the information. And then 83% again said that yes, they were familiar with what the metrics were and what they entailed. So now we'll go back to what I was saying before. So only 4 of the responders that were BAs said that they knew where to find the information on the CH or the CSAF is what we call our acronym for the accountability framework. And then 4 of the BA responders also noted that they did not understand the financial metrics prior to the meeting. And I actually was expecting these 2 groups to be the same 4 responders, but I was surprised that there were 2 of them that said they were familiar with the framework, but they didn't really understand what it was what the metrics, what they were and what they were measuring. So that kind of surprised me. Like I said, I was expecting it to be the same 4. They didn't know about it, so they wouldn't know about how the metrics were working. But yeah, just a fun fact, I guess. All right, now let's go to the next ones. Does your LEA effectively leverage financial metrics to guide informed strategic decision-making, 100% of the responders said that yes, that was the case. Does your LEA compute any financial metrics that are not included in the CSAF? 87% of those said no, and 100% of the BAs said no. Under this, there was a question about what metrics you did use if you did have other metrics that you calculated, and they were basically general responses, except for there was one that said they calculated the expected minimum revenue ongoing and overall personnel costs. They make sure those don't exceed 70%. And this one, I actually like this response, because we actually track right now in our accountability framework, we track the facilities costs. And I just wanted to bring this up because facilities costs, personnel costs, and your curriculum, these are kind of your biggest expenses that you're going to have at your school. And so it's really a good idea to make sure that you're keeping those expenses in control and not getting too out of whack on one, because if you do, then another one is going to suffer. So I just want to recommend you might want to look, just look up what industry standards are for those maybe, and just see if you're falling in line with those. Like I said, we do track the facility cost one, and we have it at less than 25%. I actually think that might be a little bit high, but that was when the decision was made to put it there. That was the percentage they decided on. So I just want to recommend that those are good things to keep track of as well on your own. The next one, has your LEA received a research and review request or other remediation based solely on financial metrics? 95% was the overall response rate there, but for the BAs, it was actually 100%. Had not a no response that had not received an R&R based strictly on their financial metrics. And then these coming up are just based on whether they had received an R&R. So since that was pretty much a 100% response rate of no, we can go ahead and pass those up. This one, has your school ever made financial decisions solely to comply with a metric in the CSAF? 61% basically said no, and 39% said yes. Unfortunately, I did not ask a follow-up question on this, so although we have that measure, I'm not exactly sure if it's a good thing or if it's a bad thing. So, but that's how the response rate was. Does your board maintain a finance committee? 100% of the respondents said yes, they did, which made me very happy. The next few questions were to be answered by if you don't have a finance committee, but people responded to them anyway. One thing that I did take away from these, we won't spend too much time on them, was that there were a couple of BAs that said that their full board actually went through the finances and took a look at them to make sure, they were that they were good. And that was in spite of them having a finance committee. So it could be more. Like I said, that question was directed at BAs that responded that they did not have a finance committee. So I like that. That made me happy that even though there is a finance committee, that the board was involved. And I would recommend, if that would have been a no for you, that maybe you could help your boards get fully involved, even if you do have a finance committee. The rest of these are mostly short answers, and we're gonna go through those. Some of the responses were very similar, so I just kind of took away some of those, and we'll talk about those in a minute. The last one, though, that wasn't a short answer was, would your LEA be able to handle additional reporting on a quarterly or annual basis to facilitate early detection of financial issues? 50% of the respondents answered maybe. There was one yes answer, and it was by a director, which didn't surprise me at all. But I was encouraged by that, and I want you to know that as we are working through where we want to go with the financial accountability framework, because we are working on changes to it, we are absolutely committed to make sure that there is as little additional responsibility. And when I say as little, we are trying to get it to none, but we don't want any additional reporting responsibility on you if we can avoid it at all. And we are working very hard to avoid that. So I want you to know that up front. And again, the rest of this is short answers. So I'm going to stop sharing this one and go back to our presentation. I'm hoping to anyway. All right, there we go. Okay. So our next slide, like I said, we're going to go through the short answers now for those questions. So this was regarding how LEAs ensure accuracy and comprehensiveness in financial reporting. There was a response. There were multiple set of eyes reviewing things throughout the process. Monthly reconciliations are done. Consultants are being used. An LEA was meeting with their department heads quarterly for budget to actual reporting to go over that. There was an LEA that they were ensuring that all expenses were being captured and all grant reimbursements had been submitted. You're implementing internal controls, which is wonderful. And there was an LEA that actually had annual training that they did with their staff to ensure that procedures were being followed. How does the SCSB financial, how has SCSB financial oversight had a positive impact? The BAs mentioned that it instills the importance of metrics to decision makers who may not have a financial background. It helped with providing a reporting feature to see where the LEA stands with each financial metric, allowing the LEA to see how its financial health is. There were a couple actually that responded. The monthly BA meetings are helpful. Also, they have appreciated the accountability measures have helped BAs defend things like amount of days cash on hand that they were keeping at the school. And an LEA received support from the SCSB in getting credit enhancement for its bonding. There was a question on how the SCSB can enhance its financial oversight. There was a response, additional training for smaller schools without an accountant on staff. Send a link to the report after the metrics are calculated. Training on the results of the, there's a typo, I forgot the CSA, which is our charter school accountability framework. So I forgot the F, I apologize for that. So training on that with common findings, leveraging USIMS to negate additional reporting. We are including USBE in our discussions, and we hope to work with them to help us with that. So as I said, we are doing everything we can to make sure there's no additional reporting requirements on you. And there was one about being transparent and available. And I hope you feel that we are transparent and available. And if you don't, I would love to talk to you and see what we can do to make that better. If you feel comfortable reaching out to us, I don't know who put that. I don't know if you're online, but if you ever find that you feel uncomfortable, I would say reach out to someone in leadership or someone you feel comfortable with and just talk it through with them. We are definitely committed to being a supportive authorizer and helping you in whatever areas that you need help with. And we want you to know that. And I really want you to feel comfortable reaching out to us. So please, if you don't, but there is someone who you think is on staff that you could talk to about that, please reach out. We would love to make things better for you, so that you have a better experience. All right, and then we had a question on when should the SCSB intervene? And these are the responses from the BAs again. So when there are concerns based on metrics, especially if it's a pattern, as a supportive rather than a punitive measure, which we are committed to doing. When the school asks for help or is on an improvement plan for material weaknesses or financial mismanagement. And I just want to say here, yes, definitely, I agree with that. But the hope would be that we could get involved a little sooner in a supportive way to help make sure that you can stay away from those material weaknesses and the financial mismanagement. So we actually would hope to get there before that so that we can help make sure you don't get that far. So that's all I want to say about that one. Somebody put that the outside audit is comprehensive and feels like enough oversight. And there was somebody who had consultants in that answer too. And something I want to say to that is, I know that it feels like it should be enough oversight, but often it isn't. Especially auditors. Auditors are looking for material misstatements and those kind of things, and they're not looking for fraud specifically, really. And so it's a really good idea to make sure that you're aware of that you really need to be on top of it with your internal controls and having other things in place, because you're like the first line of defense. And I know in my old position as an internal auditor, whenever we found fraud, it normally came from outside. There were a couple of instances where we were able to detect it beforehand, but most of the fraud somebody pointed out to us. So you guys are your first line of defense. So just keep that in mind when you think about what your auditors do and whether it really is enough oversight. Just things happen and they can get lost. So just keep that in mind. USBE provides most of the oversight. However, reminders about compliance and schedules are appreciated. And that is something we can definitely start incorporating. I do have some takeaways, but I didn't get this one put on there in time. So that is something we can definitely make sure that we're doing in these meetings. And when the SESB seems it is fitting to do so. So those are our responses on that one. And then we put out a question, what else would you like to say that we haven't asked you about, but that you really want us to know? And there were some positive and there were some things that are a little bit out of our control, but monthly trainings are helpful. I'm so glad they are, and we will definitely continue to do that. Feels like you're over monitored. Yes, I feel for you there too. The USBE, I know, is working on doing some streamlining for the monitoring and to be helpful. I know that's kind of out of our control, but I do want you to know that they are kind of working towards getting things to be better in that area. You like the idea of supportive authorizing. I'm glad. I hope that you hear that in anything that we say, that is something we're committed to, and we're working to get that message out there very hard. Overwhelmed by reporting. I get that. Again, that's another one that's outside of our purview that I know is being worked on by the USBE, and I do feel for you there. And then consultant and the audit are enough. Again, I just want to go back to that, what I was saying before. It seems like they should be, but it's not always the case. So just be aware of that. All right, so some takeaways that we're looking into doing. Some of these are going to be something we can put in place right away. Some of them will be things we're working towards, and some of them are things that we don't know how we can get that to happen right away, but we can definitely look into what we could do to make it happen. So one of these was to provide LEAs with an annual report on results of the framework after metrics are calculated. Apparently, this was something that years ago was being done, and I think this is something that we can easily incorporate into right away, so that when your metrics are measured in 2025, we can definitely get you a report on those. Online training videos directed at new business administrators. We chose new business administrators because the idea was kind of like, if for any reason something happened and your business administrator was unable to show up to work ever again, what could we do so that someone brand new could come in and get trained on what they needed to know? We thought about it first putting together one big video, and then we thought, well, maybe snippets on different things like special ed, child and nutrition, those kind of things that are their own standalone little thing. Maybe if we did snippets like that, it would be helpful instead of trying to find what you need in a long video. And also could be something that you could refer back to you as a seasoned business administrator, just to get an idea of, oh yeah, what was that one thing in there? This is something that's not going to be like, oh, we can get it implemented right away. This is definitely one we'll need to work on, but it's something that we definitely can get started on right away. Use of helpful language in emails. Yes, we can definitely get that going right away. We are, again, that supportive authorization. We want to get that message out there. We want you to believe it, and we want it to be true. I don't want to say we just want you to believe it, but it is true. And we want you to trust us on that one. Remind everyone about the framework in different meetings. We can definitely start doing that. Remind BAs that there are mentors and other training available through the associations. Yes, the UAPCS has our mentor is holding the contract for our mentorship program right now. And if you need any mentoring, you can contact them and talk with them about that. I believe that should be available even if you're not a member of the association. I was going to try and confirm that today, but people were busy and I wasn't able to, but I will definitely make sure that is the case and get that to you when I send out the video. But the mentoring at least should be available to all of the BAs or all of the schools, not just the BAs. Finding ways to do comparisons with other schools. And what this is talking about was, it was brought up that maybe you want to compare, like, how far along, when you're looking at a metric, you want to understand how far along a particular school is in their bond for the debt service coverage ratio. And you want to compare it to like somebody who's early in their bond to someone who's later in their bond. Things like that. Or also, if you are going to hire a new director and you want to see what other schools are paying their directors, that would be something you would want to compare to see what other schools are doing, to compare it to what you're doing or what you're thinking of. This is one of those that we're not sure how we could make that happen, but we can definitely, look at ways to work toward it, because we do get that would be helpful information for you as well. And then also doing some training for the directors and the boards on metrics. That is something we could definitely work towards doing right away. And opportunities to get together in person at regional trainings. This is something we are looking into, and maybe we can get it in place next year. We're hopeful, but we do see that there's value in getting together and be able to talk through these things. So maybe we don't have ways right now where we can pull the information out to help you do comparisons with how much directors are making. But when we get together and we have these opportunities to talk in person, maybe that's something that you could just chat with someone who's at the meeting there with you and just say, hey, I'm just trying to get a feel. What is it that you do? So we see value in that. And so we're going to work on ways that we can maybe take a BA meeting to one region and have them be in person, while at the same time doing a Zoom meeting for everyone else, and just find different places that we could do it. And we'll probably be contacting you for your ideas. Where do you think would be a good place to do it? Would you be willing to host? So that's something that you might look forward to seeing coming up in the next few months. All right, so that is basically the end of this presentation. I do have some information that I wanted to share with you as well on what we're doing. And I'm not, oh, there we are. I'm sorry, I did have another slide. I'm like, where is it? Okay, so we wanted to talk to you. We are working on our financial portion of our charter school accountability framework. We're actually working on the whole charter school accountability framework, but we are just working here on the financial portion. So as we were looking through this, we were kind of thinking, what are the ideals that we want to encompass when we're working on this financial framework? And of course, the things that we most wanted to make sure was encompassed within the new financial portion, as well as the other portions, are the SCSB values. And in case you're not aware of what they are, I have listed them here for you. There are 5. It's excellence, trust, impact, authenticity, and compassion. And they are on the SCSB website, and they do have a little more information if you want to go look at them on what does compassion mean. So if you feel like you want to go look at that, they are there. And then the next thing that we wanted, or things that we wanted to make sure we encompassed, were not that. I apologize, I created a slide. There we go. Okay, so we wanted to make sure that we encompass school autonomy. We wanted to make sure that if supportive authorization was included, the idea of conversation before consequences. If we find something that's a little out of whack before we come in and say, hey, we're going to institute this consequence, we actually want to have a conversation and see if we can figure out what's going on. And maybe it's a simple answer that makes sense. So we want to make sure those conversations are going on before any consequences happen. We want to make sure that we're being objective in the way we're evaluating what we're looking at with the metrics. We want to, again, minimize that administrative burden. We want to make sure that we're valuing performance over compliance, and we want to keep it simple as well. So as we work through that, we want to tell you just a little bit about what's going on. So these are our current metrics that we're working on. I'm not going to go through these with you. I just wanted to give you a little reminder of what they are. And right now, when we evaluate these metrics, basically it's you either met it or you didn't meet it. And if you didn't meet it, we've been looking at them individually, right? And so we were thinking, well, maybe we don't need to do that. Like maybe if you have annual cash flow that is below 0 for some reason, but everything else is on track, then maybe that's not as big a big deal, especially if it's not that big, right? It could be a smaller amount, it could be a large amount, but even a large amount might make sense. So we want to take those things into account. So as we're working on this new charter school accountability framework, we want to think about that. Do we want to look at just one if you didn't meet it, or maybe it's what we should be doing is taking into consideration, well, maybe it's 2, or maybe it's 3, and then looking at what we want to do based on that. So coming up with like a tiering system that we could look at. And then we're working also towards a dashboard that will help us with some early intervention. Like I said, when we were talking about the survey, there was somebody who said that they didn't think that SCSB needed to step in until they were like on an intervention plan or something. Well, like I said, we want to make sure you don't get there. So we're working on like a dashboard to help us kind of find where you might be, where that might be coming up for your future, right? And so we want to get in there and say, hey, this is kind of what we're seeing. Let's see what we can put in place to stop this from happening. So those are the things we're working through. Like I said, I don't have I'm gonna stop sharing. I don't have any slides on those because we are working on it and we don't have anything specifically in place yet so I don't want to give you something that's going to change, but I want you to know where we're going. And basically that is what I had for today. I assumed it would be short, but I didn't want to say so until we know. So you have almost a half an hour back in your day. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us about what's going on or happening. If you have anything that you want to share, go ahead and send me an email and share it. Other than that, thanks for coming and being here today, and we look forward to seeing you in August. So have a great day, guys. Thank you.